and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? Are you ready? Get ready, dog. Get ready.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Rocket Networker podcast. I always like to begin with a networking and relationship building tip. Today's tip is about connecting and staying in touch with people from high school and college throughout your entire career. For over 30 years, I've intentionally reached out to fellow alums from the University of Toledo Alumni Network across the United States and around the world. Their stories and success always amaze me. And that's where today's Rocket Networker guest comes in, Roquel Cunningham Bush. Roquel is a project manager for Sequoia in Dallas, Texas. While we attended college at different times, we share a common bond through our love of Toledo and the Rocket Nation. Roquel, thanks for making time in your busy schedule to join us on the Rocket Networker podcast. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Rick.
So it's good to see you again. So how are things in Dallas, Texas?
Well, it's almost summer, so things are heating up for sure. It's been around 90s to 80s. We've had a lot of rain recently. I'm sure you've seen on the news.
Right.
We literally had trees down, like whole trees. I've never seen it like that before because we had winds of like 80 miles per hour recently. But on the flip side, it is getting beautiful. Like the trees are growing. We have some flowers coming up. We just planted some rose bushes that are starting to show some blooms now. So really excited about the weather. Really excited about my job, which we'll get to later.
Yeah, we'll get into that. That'll be fun. So now Dallas is a big place, right? I mean, it's a big area. Which part of town do you live in there in Dallas?
So I'm in North Carrollton, which is about 30 to 45 minutes from Dallas, depending on traffic. And it doesn't seem like it's that far on the map, but like you said, we're growing, so we have a lot of traffic now. So yeah, it takes about 45 minutes on a usual day.
Right. Well, definitely, Dallas is definitely a big city, so I'm sure traffic's rough there, but you're having fun, right?
Yes, having fun.
Good deal. So Roquel, what we're going to do today, here on the Rocket Networker podcast, what we like to do is talk about the things that connect us, the little things. I refer to those as the threads of connectivity. They're things like our hometown, our family, high school, college, our involvement in our community, where we live, all of those little things that help us build trust and build relationships. And as you know from your work, when we're working, people want to talk about their work, and that's great. That's part of how we survive and make a living. But that's not what builds trust. Trust comes from who we are as people. So what I'd like to do is let's go back in time and let's talk about your hometown. Where are you from? Where did you grow up?
Yeah, so I'm from Toledo, Ohio. I went to start high school, graduated in 2005. We're planning our 20-year anniversary right now. Really excited about that. I didn't go to our 10 years, so I missed out on that. So I'm excited to catch up with them. And I decided to stay in Toledo and go to University of Toledo for college. I was a debutante in one of the debutante balls hosted by the Delta Sigma Theta organization. And they ended up giving us a really good scholarship deal. So we got 4 years of free tuition.
Wow.
Free housing. Sorry, not free tuition. Okay. Free housing for 4 years. But we did get free tuition for our first full year. As many credits as I wanted, and it was paid for. So I took full advantage.
Free has a real nice ring to it.
Yes. Well, I was actually going to go to college in Texas. I was looking at Texas schools. I wanted to go to like design schools or marketing, but I ended up staying home just because they gave us great scholarship. So I completed my 4 years there, and then I moved to New York, and I moved to Texas.
Let's talk about high school a little bit. When you got to start, or did you get involved in student life there? Were you in the choir or student government or glee club, anything of that nature?
Yeah, so I'm actually from Scott District. So Scott High School was my actual home school.
Okay.
But my grandfather raised me, and
Okay.
he had 8 kids. And he kind of took me in for my mom, and all of his kids went to start.
Okay.
So there was only like a 5-year gap between me and my youngest aunt. So
Okay.
I was going pretty quickly after they had just kind of gotten through the school system. And we just had a tradition of like going out of district. And how I did that was I took Latin, which was only offered at start. So in order to go to an out of district school, you have to take a class that's not offered at your home school.
Okay.
So he put me into Latin. And from there, I kind of just started to get to know, because I go to school with them in elementary school. Like, I'm coming to their district. I don't really have a lot of connections. So yes, I did start to join some extracurricular activities. I was vice president of our school class. I was in DECA, which was
Right.
geared towards things that I didn't really know, because I was planning to be a first generation college student. So they kind of prepped us for like interview techniques and just learning about like things I didn't grow up with. So
That's great. When you get involved, whether it's in high school or college or after college, right through our whole lives, when you get involved, good things tend to happen.
Yeah, for sure. I ended up making a lot of friends. I don't know how I got on prom court,
Okay.
but it was like a complete 180 where I started not knowing anyone, having maybe like 2 or 3 friends, and then really being able to connect with the community there.
You know, it's interesting when we talk about networking and relationship building, one of the key tenets of that is selfless service to other people, right? Serve other people with no expectation of anything in return. And when you do that, good things come your way. So think about it. Your story is very powerful in high school because you came in not knowing anyone and you came in, not involved, and you
Yeah.
got involved. And because you got involved, you met people. You were
Mhm.
networking and probably didn't even realize it.
Right. Mhm.
And that changed your high school experience.
It really did. Yeah. A lot of those friends are still now my friends. I
That
connect with them when I go back home. I'm seeing their kids being raised and seeing them as
right.
parents. So yeah, I love that I took the opportunity to get more connected and that we were able to build those lasting relationships.
So let's talk about, you're involved and you're having a good time in high school, and you start your junior, senior year, you start thinking about life after
Yeah.
high school. Do I join the military? Do I go in skilled trade, or
Mhm.
do I go to college? So take
Yeah.
us into your mind in that junior, senior year time frame. What were you thinking about life after high school?
Yeah, so I was in a National Honor Society. I graduated 3.8, so I had a lot of options. I actually took the test to see if I would qualify for some of the military options. One of them I did qualify for that I was really interested in at the time was the Air Force.
Okay.
But then we were really close to going to war at that time. And my grandfather said, no, I don't think that you should do that right now. Like maybe you should explore college. And then that's when I got into the debutante ball and realized that there was like an opportunity to tap into these scholarships, basically. I come from a lower income family, so having to pay out of pocket was really scary for me. But that kind of eased my fears. I'm like, oh, at least I get 1 year, try it out, see where it goes. And there's like a low commitment on the financial side where I don't want to put a burden on my family or myself. So I decided to move forward with college. I had 3 jobs. So I was basically doing work study on campus. I had a job off campus in retail. And I was just trying to pay for books and some of the other expenses they don't tell you about when you go to college.
Right.
But yeah, I think having the option to get a scholarship and staying close to home where I had some support around me just really encouraged me to go that route.
Yeah, that's great. All right. So you make the choice to go to the University of Toledo.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about freshman year. What was
Yeah.
that like? That transition
So
from high
great.
school to college?
It was weird. It's so crazy because I was in like 5 organizations before I knew what was happening. So I would go to meetings and then they would put you to work, right? They're like, oh, we see someone eager who's new. Let's put her to work. So I joined the Impact Movement my freshman year, which was a Christian-based organization. And I met a lot of people and we were doing a lot of events on campus. And I actually tapped into a good friend there who was really connected in like the Greek life. So she would take me around campus to all these Greek life events. I got to meet all the different organizations and that was new to me. No one in my family was Greek, didn't really know about what Greek was, even though the Deltas hosted this quintillion. I thought they were the only ones. Like I didn't realize there was like all these different options. So just getting tapped in and going around, I was doing Impact, and then I went to the Black Student Union. So one thing I didn't mention is that my whole family is white or Caucasian.
Okay.
So I don't really have a lot of perspective at that time about like my background, and I didn't really know much about that. So this was an opportunity for me to connect with others who looked like me, to learn more about that and kind of get blended in. And another thing that I did was I tried out for homecoming court. I put my name on a ballot, and then I went behind the Impact movement, and I ended up making it to the top 10 or 5. I was in the parade. That's all I remember.
Nice.
I got
Wow, that's
top
cool.
5. Yeah, I got a tiara.
Hey, that's
So
cool.
yeah, so I was just out there just exploring like what the options were and just taking every advantage. And then I was in a college of business, and then they had networking events. So whenever there was like an extra credit activity, which would be either like a job interview or going to a job fair, I just took advantage. Like I didn't know what was going to happen, but if it sounded cool, I'm like, well, let me just go try it. And so freshman year was really busy for me.
Yeah. Now, all right. Now let's go to the more important question. You were having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
What did grades look like in that freshman year? Or do we not want to go there?
Oh no, I graduated college 3.6.
Hey, all right. That's way better than me.
Yeah. So freshman year, I don't remember exactly my GPA, probably the lowest. I think it was like a 3.0, or it was not allowed in my family for myself to fall below a 3.0. Like that was kind of like
Had
the
to be
standard that was set for me. I've always had high grades. So yeah, no, I was balancing it all and working 3 jobs. I don't know how, because now I'm tired all the time and I don't do any of that stuff.
I tell people that all the time. When I got involved when I was in college, my grades went up.
Yeah.
And I was the same way. I was working 30 hours a week off campus. I
Yeah.
was getting, I was sleeping like 3 hours a day. But for whatever reason, my grades went up
Right.
the busier
Yeah.
I got. Did that happen to you too?
Yes, I remember like maybe not freshman year, sophomore, junior year, I was working 12 to 4 a.m. and then I had 8 a.m. classes. So I'm literally getting 3 or 4 hours of sleep, working on fumes, and somehow, like I said, I'm getting 3.8 some semesters. Like I have no idea, but if you ask me to do that now, there's no way.
I know, right? That's why we do things like that when we're in college, when we're young, right?
Yes, when you have the energy, take advantage of it for sure.
So, I am so happy that you and I are on this podcast together, because when you talk about networking and relationship building, everything you described about your high school experience and everything you described about your college experience is exactly what that networking and relationship building is all about.
Mm-hmm.
Get involved, stay involved, be yourself, help other people, right?
Yes.
And good things just happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. But you have to be willing to put yourself out there too. It does take a little bit of effort because that was the hard part for me sometimes, is just getting there, but once you're there, you're going to have fun. So I always tell people, like, don't get in your head, just go, like, don't go with expectations, just go.
Yeah, just go. Well, I want to back up for a minute and explore your experience a little bit. You talked about getting involved in Black Student Union because you wanted to have an experience with people of your own color. Talk about that a minute, because we in society today don't like talking about that. But it sounds like you had a cool experience the way you grew up and then merged into that. So tell me about that a little bit.
And Rick, I don't want to say I didn't have it, because I lived in a neighborhood that was predominantly Black. So the only family, maybe at the maximum 5 families within like our block, that was white. So I did have it living there, but it wasn't quite the same. So I went to elementary school at Cherry, on the north side of Toledo. And I had that experience. But when I went to junior high school, I went to DeVoe, which was a mixture. And then Start was predominantly on the opposite. So I kind of like eased into the opposite. It's like I started off with it. So when I got to college, I wanted to kind of explore it because I had my neighborhood, but I didn't really have like a large community of that. So that was like a big thing for me was having like someone to talk to just about hair. Like I have been natural for almost 20 years now, and no, maybe like 15. But that was my journey starting off there was rough because I'm like, I have this texture that nobody in my family has. So just having that community to learn, like, what kind of hair products are you using? Like, where do you go to get your hair done? Like, where do you buy your products? Like, just basic stuff, was just so key for me on campus. And then I ended up joining Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, which is predominantly Black. And there I really found like a sisterhood of people who like I could relate to in a different way. Not like I can't relate to everyone, but they were like people that I feel like they could get me and I could ask them questions and be vulnerable and just learn more. Like questions that you have. This is before Google was a thing.
Exactly.
It's like you really had to know someone who knew these answers.
Right. You connected with folks, and it was part of that relationship building in an environment where something as little as hair products became a part of a relationship. That's how simple networking is. And those are friends for life now. So talk about sorority experience a little bit.
So freshman year, like I said, I was really curious of all that the campus had to offer. Kind of went around just, I didn't do any rushes or anything. I just kind of went to some informationals just to learn more about some of the organizations. And I actually joined freshman year, second semester.
Okay.
So I had did all my research, kind of met them all. I was reading books actually about them to see what their principles were and what they were standing for. Not just like on my campus, but like nationwide.
Yeah.
It's a long commitment, right? It's like I want to make sure I'm picking the right one.
It's a lifetime journey.
Yes, you don't want to pick it just because of like the people on your campus. You want to make sure if you go somewhere else, you're going to like those people too, and they're going to have the same principles that you're looking for. So I ended up joining my second semester freshman year, and I got really active from there. So I ended up, like you said, we're doing a bunch of fundraisers, we're coordinating events. But junior year, I joined Order of Omega, which is a National Honor Society for Greeks. So you have to be Greek to be in this National Honor Society. And that's when I really got, I would say, more involved with like bringing all of the Greeks together. So we had Homecoming Week, which was a really big deal. And Order of Omega was responsible for planning that. And I was a VP. And I remember saying, I want to bring all of the Greeks together because I felt like some of the D9 weren't being included in some of the activities. So we really broke them up. We were like, we're just going to mix this up this year. You don't get to pick who you're going to do your float with, or you don't get to pick who you're going to do your week with. That was really fun because I got to see all of them come together.
Did you get involved in Blue Key Honor Society at all, like with Songfest or anything like that?
No, I did not. No. I think I was tapped out by.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like you were pretty busy there.
Yeah, for the Blue Men crew, totally separate.
Oh, you did?
Yes, and it was a really cool process. You meet like at midnight or something. I don't know. It's very mysterious. And I still love them to this day. Like really cool experience.
Let's get to the life after college. Where was your head at that point? What were you thinking about?
Yeah, so my whole family is basically based in Ohio and Michigan. And I love Ohio and Michigan. I go back all the time. So not saying this in like any sort of way, but I just knew for myself, I wanted to try something different. So it was really important for me to just get out before I overthought about it, before anyone could get in my head. I was like, I just got to get out. Because I feel like the longer my family stays, the harder it is for them to get out. So I kind of just packed up junior or senior year, I was thinking about, like, where do I want to go, right? It's like, no, I want to go somewhere, but where do I want to go? And I really put my heart towards New York, but it was after I was in a long relationship. So I was with a guy from sophomore year to senior year, and I was kind of basing my decisions around that because I thought we were going to be together for a while. And then when we broke up, I remember being devastated. And then that's when I really started thinking about where do I want to go, if I'm being honest, Rick. So that's where it started.
Hey, it was
Okay.
20 years ago. You can talk about it now. It's fine.
I know. Yeah. So I ended up thinking like, I don't think I want to stay here. I think I want to go somewhere. But I really feel like that was a key moment. Now that I think back on it, it's like I was at first thinking about my life based around other people, and then start thinking about like what I wanted for myself. So
Right. All right. So you now graduate.
yeah.
And where did you go then? Where did you go from graduation?
So I just packed up my car. My girlfriend drove with me. I drove to New York City. I just moved there. I didn't know anyone. I had met a sorority sister through Facebook,
Okay.
and she offered to rent me one of the rooms in her house. And that should have been like a key factor to be like, how far is this from the city?
Yeah.
So it was in Jamaica, Queens,
Okay.
and it was a haul because you have to take a bus to the train to get to the city. But I was lucky because she didn't charge me a lot for the time it was. It wasn't a lot of money. So I literally just packed up my car. My girlfriend went with me. We drove over there. My girlfriend flew back. And I started off in New York City.
Now, let's go back to that a little bit for folks that have not had that opportunity to be 22 or 3 or 4 years
Yeah.
old and not know anyone, not know where the
Yeah.
grocery store is at, or not
Right.
know how to get on the subway. So talk about your first couple of months there. What was that like?
I'm so grateful to my sorority sister because she had been there for a few years, so she kind of got settled in. And she was key to answering those questions, like how do I even get to the train?
Right.
Like what are some of the areas I should go to? I didn't have a job. I just kind of moved there because I was trying to apply for jobs, but they were like, do you live here? And then they weren't interested in me because I'm not living there. I'm sure a lot of people want to live there, right? And are
Right.
applying. So I think they just weren't taking me very seriously. So she helped me kind of get in with some of the staffing agencies there. But yeah, she was kind of crucial for like helping me get set up.
What was your first job?
Well, my first job was at Mana Products, and I was a product development assistant, which sounded really cool because I was like, I don't even know what this is. But basically, they do a lot of the makeup and skincare for like spas. So they serve
Okay.
as like a third party. They put your label on it. And my first job, I was helping the lab create some of these products. And I would just be basically what we call now like data entry,
Yep.
making sure that the right formulas are getting created, getting them to the approvers on time, and just keeping the project on track. But I remember the funniest thing at that job was, well, two things. Was they told me that a lipstick needed more blue, and I was so confused because the lipstick was red.
Yeah.
And then that's when I learned about undertones and blues and yellows, but I was like so confused. She's like, it needs like 15% more, and I'm like, how do I tell that to a lab? Like I don't even know what that is. So
What
it
is
was
that?
yeah, and I don't wear a lot of makeup, so it was very confusing to me, but I ended up catching on, to that. And then the second thing was, it always seemed like everything was urgent or, super sensitive. And I remember our VP came in one day and said, we're not saving lives here, we're making lipstick. So that kind of like changed my perspective about most of the jobs after that. Because whenever I get into a mindset of like, this is life or death, I'm like, it's really not. Like, I'm not a doctor.
It feels like it, but it's
It
not.
feels like it, and it really helped keep me grounded, Rick. So I'm really grateful she said that. I'm like, helps me stay grounded in my roles even today.
I always joke with people, and I say that all roads lead through Toledo, Ohio. No matter where you're at in the world, there's someone from Toledo and or the University of Toledo in that town, in that company, in that location. And the current CEO of Mana Products is a gentleman named Bob Jagley. And Bob is from Toledo, a University of Toledo graduate. And I'm not sure how long Bob has been there. He'll be on an upcoming episode of the Rocket Networker podcast. But Bob was a member of the New York City alumni chapter when you were involved. And
Oh, wow.
I'm not sure if you met him or not, but he wasn't at Mana at that time. but that's only, I think,
Wow.
maybe been the last 7 years or so. But for those that haven't heard of Manna Products, actually, Bob has worked with the University of Toledo Pharmacy College, and they have a program in the college on cosmetic formulary. So
Wow.
Bob works with them and actually brings students in, as interns, and then their first jobs out of college at Manna Products.
That's so cool.
And you were the first mover. You were the first University of Toledo person to ever work there. I'm
So
kidding.
crazy.
There may have been another one before you, but none that I know.
Yeah. Wow, that's so crazy.
Yeah, so I will connect you to Bob, and you guys
Yeah.
can you can tell him about history there back when you were there.
I'm sure it looks completely different. This was a long time ago, over a decade ago. So
But how cool is that?
yeah, that's
There's the
so
Rocket
cool.
Nation literally at work, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's very cool. All right, so that's your first job. Where does life go from there?
So I was at Manna Products for about a year on a contract.
Okay.
And it got extended. But then at the same time, Avon headquarters had reached out to me, cold called me basically, and asked if I wanted to join their marketing department.
Okay.
And I thought that was really cool because now I'm like, this is a top company. Like, I
Yeah.
know Avon. My family back home knows Avon. I have friends who are selling Avon. So I was like, oh my gosh, yes. So I signed up just for your contract. And I went into marketing. So this is where I started learning about like market trends and doing some research and just the back end that goes into developing a product, a consumer good product. And I thought that was so cool because I'm like, I'm fresh out of college.
Oh, yeah.
I'm working at a top company. I'm working in downtown New York City. Like, I loved it. And they have the Avon Breast Cancer Walk, and that's kind of how I got more. I started networking in some of these activities. It's a marathon and a half, so 39 miles, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
39 miles. And I signed up to walk that. I didn't know. I was like, I walk every day in New York, but it's a lot different, Rick, when you're going for 39 miles versus like
Exactly.
3. I didn't train for it. Oh, I should have trained. And I was wondering why everyone was donating towards mine instead of walking with me because,
Yeah.
they've been there for a few years.
So now you know.
Now I know. They're like, oh, we got a newbie. Let's get her.
Yeah, you couldn't walk for 2 weeks afterward, but
No,
you made it.
literally. Literally. I had this blisters like the size of this on the back of my feet. And I was like, now I know why they didn't want to walk themselves. But
Exactly.
such a great experience. It's broken out into 2 days. Second day, you don't want to roll over. But I'm glad I did it. It's such a great cause. And I got to meet a lot of people there. So.
All right, so you're working for Avon. You're living the dream in New York City,
Yeah.
which every young person should do just
Yeah.
to get the experience. So what happens from there?
Yeah, so the year contract came to an end and I didn't get renewed, which
Okay.
happens sometimes, and that's the risk I was willing to take.
Right.
And I started working at Bubblegum Shrimp, actually, in Times
Really?
Square. Yes. One of the most fun jobs I've ever had. They have the stop, no go, like stop, force, stop, run, force, run. So it's
Yeah.
very team oriented. Like we're all working as a team. Even if it's not your table, if you see it, you stop. And I love that, but it really taught me how to be scrappy, right? It's like I still have the same rent to pay. Like,
Right.
so because I forgot to tell you, I now moved closer to the city.
Okay.
So I'm in Jackson Heights, Queens, which is still a little bit over the water, but super close compared to
Right.
Jamaica, Queens. So my rent went up because now I'm staying in a studio by myself. So it really taught me how to be resourceful, and like my work ethic was showing. I'm trying to like get my stuff together. But then I was like, I think I've done my time in New York City. I kind of want to try somewhere else. And I started thinking about where I wanted to move after that. And for me, I tried the big city. I was like, I want to try a big state. Like I'm doing everything big. I'm young.
Go for it. Right.
Yeah, I'm going for it. I want something that has more of a feel like home, where it's not as hustle and bustle as New York. But I want something that is still growing, where I'm young. There's going to be activities.
Yeah.
So I decided on Dallas because I'm like, it's up and coming. It's growing. Now this is over 10 years ago now.
Okay.
So it's a lot different now. I feel like I probably brought some of that.
Right.
But it was like the place that was to be like the bigger city soon. So the
Right.
cost of living still was kind of low. It had a lot of activities. So I just decided to move to Texas.
Now when you got to Texas, did you have a job or did you just go there and then look for a
No,
job?
yeah, I have a reoccurring theme now I'm thinking about it, right? A lot of leaps of faith, like I'm like, what's the worst that could happen? I have to move back home to Toledo. That's fine. Like,
Yeah, that's how my wife and I were the same way. We moved all over the US and we're like, what's the worst thing that can happen,
right.
right?
You got to
So,
start over somewhere. But no, I
right on.
didn't have a job at first. I was doing promotional work, which basically brands will hire ambassadors to go
Right.
out. So if you go to an event, like a concert, you see a State Farm table, they probably don't actually work for State Farm. They're just there to promote that
Right.
brand. I was doing a lot of that. So
Okay.
just like one-off gigs. And then I ended up finding a job with one of those companies. They were like, hey, like, could you do this? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I can do that. And then my role just started expanding. It went
Right.
from like staffing, because they knew I knew people that were working the events, went from staffing to now I'm leading project coordinators. I'm a project manager, managing like 5 project coordinators. That's when I kind of got a taste for like project management. I'm like, I have trackers and I have to keep this project on time to make sure we're hitting our deliverables. So that was really cool, but I was doing it on the side. Then I actually went and used my degree for marketing. So I had
Okay.
2 jobs, and one was remote. So I was able to do it like at off hours because most of their events were happening at 8 p.m. anyways.
Right.
And then I had my corporate job from 9 to 5.
Neat. So you're just
Yeah.
working hard like you've always
Yeah.
worked.
I've always had like 2 or 3 jobs. I don't know why.
Hey, that's because you just get things done. You're a
Yeah.
doer and you get things done.
Yeah. And I find it fun. I'm like, well, I have this experience. I can learn this. I'm always trying to learn something.
Right.
And I'm always
Right.
trying to pass it on to someone else too.
It's awesome that you do that.
Yeah.
That's great. You mentioned in the beginning Sequoia. So
hmm
in project management, talk about, that type of work. What do you do now?
Yeah, so I was actually in marketing for almost 10 years throughout different companies, mostly in Texas. And I was doing project management on the side. And I realized I really love the project management aspect. So when I was at Mary Kay, I had the opportunity to do a lateral move into project management for marketing.
Okay.
And they got me my PMP. I won't say they got it for me, but they helped pay for my PMP. And it was
Right.
COVID, so it was like 2020. We're all in lockdown. They offered it, and I said, yes, I'll do that. And it's remote. We just meet on Saturdays. I have nothing else to do anyways. So it was kind of like the universe aligned for me to get the certification. And once I got the certification, I was starting to think I've been in cosmetics for a long time, most of my career. And one of my mentors told me that to try different things so I don't get pigeonholed, to show that I'm marketable, that I'm able to learn new skills, that I'm able to use my transferable skills. So at that time, I started looking at tech companies
Okay.
and other companies too. I'm just putting it out there, pretty much consumer goods outside of beauty, some tech companies, just seeing where it's going to take me. I'm applying, and I ended up with a contract role at LinkedIn. And like I said, I'm still kind of young, so I'm willing to take the risk of not having benefits. I'm pretty healthy. It's not a key factor for me.
Right.
But the pay was higher, so I justified, like, if something does happen, at least I have the
Right.
money,
Right.
but I'm getting the experience, which is the most important thing to me right now.
Right.
So I'm just weighing pros and cons. And those change as we get older, right? So now I
Right.
probably wouldn't take the same risk that I did then. But I said, LinkedIn, like, this is a big company. I've never worked for a big company like that. I think I'm going to take this opportunity.
Right.
And I took it. And while I was there, I got to learn that I do have a lot of transferable skills that aren't related to just industry, right? It's like I can manage a project. They have
Right.
the same things. We're doing deliverables. I'm working with stakeholders, like just trying to identify the areas that I could do, because I was having imposter syndrome at first. Like, why would they pick me?
Right. Right.
But it was in their marketing department, helping their marketing team with their projects and their launches. So it was familiar because I understood marketing language. So it kind of helped me like to mix those two.
Right.
And since it was a contract, I got like a 6-month extension, but after that, they make you take a break to make
Okay.
sure that you're not a employee, right? So you have to take like a
Right.
6-month or a year break. And
Right.
I was coming up on that line, and then I ended up going to Meta, which is the old Facebook. So it's
Right.
called Meta now, so Instagram, Facebook. And I took a whole different thing, and now I'm working in crisis response. I'm like, I don't know anything about crisis response. Like, learning this, a lot of imposter syndrome was like keep trying to pop up in these new roles. So I'm
Right.
like, you know what? They picked me for a reason. I'm going to try my best. I'm going to do what I can. And I made some great connections there. I still talk to most of my colleagues. And we went through a lot of layoffs because a lot of tech companies are now doing layoffs. I went through 3 rounds of layoffs. Didn't get an impact, and I was impacted on the last round. And I was really just taking a break, Rick. And I had already been studying for my personal trainer certification. And I just went full speed on that. I said, you know what? I'm really going to knock this out. I'm going to get that certification finally. I have the time to study. I took my exam. I did personal training for probably like 3 to 4 months for free. I'm just like, I want to get the experience. I want to go
Yeah.
shadow people.
Right.
So now I teach cycling classes, and I do boot camp sometimes. I do online virtual training sessions, and I work at Sequoia. So with Sequoia, I'm project managing, and then on the side, I'm getting, because it's remote, so I'm not
Right.
getting a lot of like interaction with people in real life. So that's why I'm doing the personal training, because I'm getting some of the interaction with
Right.
people. And I'm
And you're,
working out, which is one of
and
the
you're
things I
staying
love.
healthy then too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's cool. I love our conversation here. I love your background, your positivity, and the things that you're doing just to live life and experience life and network. And we couldn't have scripted this conversation. I mean, it is awesome. You're a role model for networking and relationship building and just being courageous about it. So before we move to wrap up, though, talk about personal life. Is there any special people in your life or family members nearby?
Yeah, so I'm married. So my
Okay.
husband, I would shout out my husband, Johnny Bush. Oh my gosh, Rick, he actually went to University of Toledo while I was there.
Oh my God, you're kidding me.
Yes, and played football. He was running
Okay.
back, and I did not know him. He's a year after me. He's a year younger.
Okay.
And I didn't know him, and then we ended up meeting in Texas. We share a mutual best friend, and he was just coming in town to visit, and he invited me out to brunch, and I met my husband there to talk about the connections from UT.
All roads lead through Toledo.
I know. I couldn't have made it better. But yeah, so I want to shout out my husband. I shout out my family. The reason I became a personal trainer is because I lost my mom due to health reasons very suddenly. So I did
I'm
it as
sorry
a
to hear that.
tribute to her. And my grandfather, who raised me, recently passed as well. So I'm just living life to the fullest for them. It really showed me how short life is.
Well, I'm sorry to hear about your grandfather and your mother. That's the cycle of life.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, it's
but
gonna
look at
come for
look
all of
at
us.
but look at the legacy that they left behind with you.
Yeah,
I mean, they're still here.
yeah.
They're embedded in you. It's such a cool story. Very
I try to
cool.
make them proud every day.
I'm pretty confident that you do.
Thanks.
Like I said earlier, we could carry this conversation on for a while. There's just so many fun things to explore. So I'd just like to say thank you. Thanks for making the time.
Thank you for having me. This was really fun. Like I said, it's my first podcast or any type of interview like this. So thank you, Rick.
It's my honor. And that's it for this episode of the Rocket Networker podcast. Now it's time to launch connections to ignite your success. And the key question is, are you ready? To schedule a Rocket Networker training program or keynote speech, go to rocketnetworker.com. It's time to launch connections to ignite your success. Are you ready?